The movie begins in a desert where we see a woman named Mallory driving her car. She is about to get married, so she is heading out of the city to prepare for her big day at her sister's place. Mallory doesn't seem too excited about the wedding, as she can't believe she's getting married in a week. While driving, she video chats with her sister, Ella. Ella mentions she hasn't bought her flight ticket yet because she wants to make sure Mallory is truly in love and happy with her decision. Mallory responds in a fake happy voice, saying she's fine, then hangs up. While driving on a remote road, Mallory turns onto a service road, planning to take a shortcut to her destination in Denver. However, her car breaks down. She tries her best to get the engine working again, but it doesn't start. Alone in the middle of nowhere with no cell signal, she can't call for help. While trying to open a can of soda, it explodes and wets her clothes, so she changes in the back of her car. Just then, a man named Christian appears, offering to help after noticing she's stranded. Christian successfully fixes her car, and Mallory, grateful, continues her journey. As she drives away, she realizes Christian was walking and helped her with the car, so she feels the least she can do is offer him a ride. Christian accepts, and as they drive, we learn that he doesn't seem to grasp the concept of stopping talking. He keeps chatting, trying hard to impress Mallory. Eventually, his behavior turns strange as he begins talking about how fate brought them together, hinting that their meeting was destined. Soon, it becomes clear that Christian is very inappropriate, sharing things that make Mallory uncomfortable. Fed up with his behavior, Mallory pulls over and orders him to get out. However, Christian refuses, revealing that he didn't get in the car just to leave so easily. With no choice, Mallory keeps driving while thinking of how to escape this situation. Noticing that Christian isn't wearing his seatbelt, she speeds up and crashes the car into a guardrail near a curve. The car crashes, and the next thing we see, Mallory is hanging upside down inside his car. Her foot is stuck, making it impossible for her to move. Christian, who wasn't wearing a seatbelt, was thrown from the car but is still conscious. Although he is injured, he's in better shape than Mallory. It became clear when the man woke up, walked over to Mallory, and noticed that one of her legs was stuck. He then told her to leave on her own before leaving the poor woman hanging upside down in her car. Mallory had no other choice but to shout for help.
Help! I'm down here! Help!
And we can see that the river is nearby. Nightfall came, but no one came to help her, and she remained in the same condition for a long time. As the night grew deeper, the temperature dropped, and she started to feel colder. Mallory also looked around the car and saw some of her clothes. Somehow, she managed to put them on. Fortunately, the car still had some battery left, so she turned on the heater. However, the cold wasn't the only problem. She was stuck in what seemed like a place near the forest, with wild animals nearby. She immediately turned on the car's headlights to scare them away, and luckily, it worked. Miraculously, she managed to survive the tough night. As daylight approached, Mallory was still stuck and growing weaker due to a lack of water and food. The entire day passed, and still, no one came to help the poor woman. She remained trapped in the car, hanging upside down. By morning, Mallory's situation had worsened. On top of her suffering, Christian suddenly appeared, looking healthy and happy, with an expression of joy on his face. He wasn't ashamed to admit that he was enjoying every moment of Mallory's misery. He came back to torment her mentally, eating and drinking in front of her. Then, the rude man spoke about how fate had brought them together. As Christian sat there, enjoying Mallory's suffering, he told her that he had found a cabin. It was empty at the moment, but he thought a family lived there. Christian also mentioned that Mallory wouldn't last much longer because she might not survive another night. Then, he left again while Mallory screamed for help. On the third night, the surroundings were very dark. Luckily for Mallory, she found a lighter in her car. She lit it to create some light and warmth in the cold night. She soon fell asleep, but it didn't take long before a family of rats woke her up as they began feasting on her body. Finally fed up, Mallory became aggressive and killed one of the rats. After thinking it over, the rat infestation wasn't entirely bad because, at least, she now had something to eat. The next morning, Mallory woke up to the sound of her phone ringing. This was the best thing that had happened to her in her current situation, and the only thing that crossed her mind was hope. However, before she could make any call, Christian reappeared. The moment she saw Christian, she immediately hid her phone. Christian told the story of the cabin again and mentioned that the family living there had returned. Christian revealed that he had locked them in their own cabin and assured Mallory that she didn't need to be afraid of him anymore because he would help her get out of there. The first thing Christian did was grab Mallory's phone after noticing that she was hiding it. Then, he gave her a saw. Mallory told him she couldn't use the saw to cut through the door. Christian responded by saying that she was right.
It's for you.
The truth is, he gave her the saw to cut off her own foot and escape. Christian added that this was her only choice, and if she didn't do it soon, she might die there. After this, Christian left her alone again. As night fell, Mallory began to feel thirsty since it had been quite a while since she had last had water. Perhaps God heard her prayers because it started to rain. However, the rain was so heavy that she wouldn't die of thirst. When she turned on the radio, she found out that the roads were flooded due to the storm, and people were choosing to take the side roads because the water was too high on the main roads. A little while later, a car stopped near her, but to her dismay, it turned out to be her nightmare, Christian. When he stopped, Mallory came up with a plan. She smeared dead rat blood on her foot and pretended to be dead, making it look like she had died while trying to cut off her foot. When Christian approached to check on her with a flashlight, Mallory successfully stabbed him, stole his keys, and locked herself in the car.
That's your plan?
Afterward, she threw the keys into the darkness so he couldn't find them. She thought that maybe someone would pass by and notice Christian's stopped car. Not long after, another car approached, and it turned out to be a police car. When the officer got out, Mallory shouted and tried to get his attention, but the storm was so loud that her voice couldn't be heard over the thunder. Meanwhile, Christian continued to pretend to be an innocent man, injured by the storm, and asked the officer to give him a ride to a nearby cabin. Mallory continued shouting, but no one could hear her cries. She realized that if she didn't escape soon, she would die. She began to recall what Christian had said to her, trying to gather the courage to act. She said, "Enough is enough," and started cutting into her leg, but she only managed a few shallow cuts before her car started to move due to the flooding. When her vehicle fell, the door of her vehicle opened, and she was finally able to escape. Now, she needed medical help and, more importantly, to get out of there. As Mallory walked toward the riverbank, she began to walk away. Not far from the river, she saw a cabin and heard someone screaming. Worried it might be a trap, she quickly approached the house, but the stick she was holding triggered a bear trap installed in the ground. In that moment, she thought about the cabin Christian had told her about. Now, Mallory realized that Christian might be there, and with that possibility in mind, she started walking around the cabin. Inside, she witnessed Christian killing the police officer who had helped him earlier and taking their daughter, Katie, hostage. Quietly entering the cabin, Mallory saw that Christian had also killed the homeowners and taken the officer's gun. Mallory managed to get inside and tried to free the girl. Meanwhile, Christian was trying on the officer's uniform, perhaps for his upcoming evil plan. Mallory then heard Christian's footsteps approaching and immediately hid before the madman arrived. She then pointed the gun at Christian and told him she would kill him if he moved. Still, Christian attacked Mallory, who then told Katie to run. Mallory struggled with Christian and managed to get away from the madman. When Christian entered a room to find her, Mallory was no longer there. Eventually, Mallory defeated Christian by pushing him off the second-floor balcony, where he fell and got his leg trapped in a bear trap. Mallory then calmly walked down with Katie and handed Christian his knife. She told him she would give him the same chance he had given her.
I'm gonna give you the same chance that you gave me.
While talking about fate, Mallory tells Christian that he was right. Maybe this is exactly how it should have happened when they first met. In the end, Christian suffered from his wounds while thinking about what Mallory said. Meanwhile, Mallory and Katie have left the place to ask for help, and this is where the movie ends. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the movie.